Hello everyone, this is Raw Power. This video is going to be a build guide for my Mind Over Matter Incinerate Clear Mind Templar, which I'm starting on the Warbands League, the new challenge league for the Awakening. So the Awakening was released on Friday, and this is 3 days into the new expansion, and I've been trying this build. I'm liking it a lot. So basically use Incinerate, and as a defensive mechanism we use Mind Over Matter, and we also take advantage of Clear Mind Cobalt Geo. What I like about Clear Mind is it gives you a lot of spell damage if you don't reserve mana, and at the same time it gives you a lot of mana regen. So most people use Clear Mind with Blood Magic because Blood Magic builds never reserve mana anyway, so they always get the spell damage bonus, but by doing this they ignore the mana regeneration bonus. So when I was thinking about this build, I was trying to make a build that would use both of the bonuses that Clear Mind has. So I made a build using Mind Over Matter, and to use Mind Over Matter you have to have lots of mana and lots of mana regeneration, and that's where the other bonus of Clear Mind comes. Nowadays people are using Mind Over Matter with Zealot's Oath and Eldritch Battery, so they use Mind Over Matter with their energy shields. So it's also a viable option, but I just wanted to do it with, using hard investment in mana. But anyway, since we're using Mind Over Matter, we have to use Clarity. Clarity is very important for Mind Over Matter, even though it was it was nerfed a lot in the Awakening. It reserves, it regenerates a lot less mana now, but we have to use it. But because we want to get the bonus from Clear Mind, we have to reserve Clarity on our life. So we use Blood Magic Gem for Clarity, so we reserve it on our life. So this reduces our effective life a little bit, but at the same time we do have Mind Over Matter, so that's not really a problem. Anyway, this video is to show you how to build the character. I'm going to use the offline skill planner for that. So this is the offline skill planner. This is what the build looks like in the endgame with like 119 points invested. But I'm gonna reset and I'm gonna show you how it works. So I recommend the Templar start. You can also use a Scion start. People say Scion start is better nowadays if you can start Scion because you have more geo sockets, but the way I planned this build, you're gonna have the same amount of geo sockets starting either Templar or Scion, so it doesn't really matter. I like the Templar start because it's just closer to some of the nodes that I consider important in the start, but you can do whatever. So the Templar start is really great for this build because you get life regeneration, mana, and mana regeneration. Sorry about that. So you get all of that, and this is what is really important for Mind Over Matter, because you want to have a big life pool, big mana pool, lots of mana regeneration, and because we don't have to take Zealot's Oath, our life regeneration actually applies to our life. So we have regeneration of both life and mana, so that also helps mitigate a lot of damage. But you continue on to take more life here. I recommend taking Retribution because it's a decent spell damage and cast speed, and also strength and intelligence. Then you proceed on to the elemental damage nodes, and you get the Elementalist, which is another great node. It gives you some elemental resistances and damage. And then you proceed to Light of Divinity, which also gives you a lot of spell damage and cast speed. Also like it a lot. Previously I considered going down here, taking these life nodes, and then taking the famous Illuminati triangle or wheel or whatever. But I just think that you have to use a lot of points to get there, either path you take, and I don't think it's really worth it, so I gave up this part of the tree. And I just continue on here. At this point it's interesting to take Explosive Impact, even though Incinerate is not AoE, but this is decent fire damage, and if you get this fire damage at this point now, it's going to help you level a little bit as you level using Incinerate. If you feel like you need more life, you can also start getting the Period of Flesh cluster. It's part of the final build and it gives you some nice chaos resistance. You should get it before you get into Cruel, because then you're gonna have all the nice chaos resistance. Um, Continuing on, I like to get Quick Recovery at this point. So Quick Recovery is a very nice node for Mind over Matter builds, because again it gives you lots of life, mana, and mana regeneration. So when you reach here, you're ready to allocate Mind over Matter, but I recommend you get a little bit more mana and more mana regen before you get it. If you get it really soon, you're gonna get your mana pool is gonna empty too fast, and you're gonna be unable to cast your Incinerate and stuff. So you need a little bit stronger mana pool before you allocate it. So before you allocate it, I recommend you get Mental Rapidity. So this little cluster here gives you cast speed, which is important for Incinerate, and the last node gives you again mana generation. So it's great for this build. You can continue on here and get some life with Cruel Preparation, so you get more life. And then you get Deep Thoughts, so you get more mana regeneration. And after I got Deep Thoughts, I thought I was able to get Mind over Matter, so I got it. So you probably have enough mana. You should start thinking about changing your flasks to hybrid flasks at this point. If you've been using a combination of mana and life, you should substitute everything for hybrid and aim for hallowed hybrid flasks in the end game with quality and etc. So you should start doing that now. And at this point, you can, if you want, you can allocate these two nodes here and get your first jewel socket, where you can put your Clear Mind jewel. So if you were able to get a Clear Mind jewel with a nice row, you can put it on that socket. And at this point, of course, if you are running Mind over Matter, at this point you have to be running the Clarity Aura, of course, for the extra mana regeneration. So, but if you allocate Clear Mind, then you have to use your Clarity Aura with Blood Magic, so you get the bonus from Clear Mind. And also, if you use your Clarity with Blood Magic, you're going to free up a lot of space in your mana pool, and that's also a nice synergy with Mind over Matter. You have your entire mana pool only for Mind over Matter and for casting your Incinerate, so it works great. So after you do that switch for Hybrid Flasks and Clear Mind and Mind over Matter and all of that, you can continue on here on the Witch Tree, and you can get these very good fire damage nodes here, which are one of the staple fire damage nodes in the game. Very good for fire damage. And you can also go down here and get even more damage until you get to Elemental Dominion, which is also another very good node. So at this point, you have finished the Templar and the Witch parts of the tree. So what you have to do now is keep going down and getting more of the stats you need for the build. So basically, the stats we're looking for are lots of life, lots of mana regeneration, and of course damage, fire damage, projectile damage, etc. And in the end, we're gonna get a little bit of armor too. So armor is one of our main defenses besides Mind over Matter. Of course, you don't want Mind over Matter to be your only defense, because if you don't mitigate damage with other mitigation mechanics, then your mana pool is just gonna dry. So you want to have other mitigation mechanics like armor. So we're gonna go down. You go down to Shaper. So Shaper is an awesome node for this build, of course. 40% mana regeneration rate and 1% of life regenerator per second. We end up having a decent amount of life, and because of that, we actually regenerate some life, a decent amount of life per second, because on the way to get everything we need, we also get a lot of life regen. So we have life regen here, we have life regen here, we're gonna get more life regen down here on the duelist tree in a second. So we regenerate a lot of life and mana at the same time, so that helps mitigate damage a lot. After you get Shaper, I recommend you go into the Scion tree a little and get this little mana regen node here. 20% is also decent. And then you can also allocate one more jewel socket and start socketing jewels with life and fire damage and stuff like that. Then you should start going down, get some life on the life wheel, start getting the life wheel. You can finish it later on the end game. And start going towards the middle of the Marauder and Duelist tree. If you already have another good jewel, you can allocate this socket. If you don't, you can leave it for later when you have a good jewel. And then a very important note here is Battle Rouse, because Battle Rouse has a very nice synergy with Mind Over Matter. It gives you 3% damage taken gained as mana when hit. So basically, you're going to mitigate 30% of your damage when you're hit, and this 30% damage is going to go to your mana. But then 3% of that is going to be regained. So effectively, it's like, if I'm not mistaken, it's like it makes your Mind Over Matter mitigate 30%, but it only costs like 27% because you gain 3% back. So it basically makes your Mind Over Matter work a little bit better. So you allocate this entire cluster because it gives you more maximum mana, gives you some nice flat mana and also percentage mana, and that special thing about Battle Rouse that you regain mana. So that's nice. At this point I recommend you come here to Master of the Arena, which of course is not really the flavor of this build because it's not a melee build, but we do get 1% life regen. But we are going this way more because there is life to be had here and armor, and also because of mana flows. So mana flows is really great for mana. It gives you increased maximum mana, increased intelligence, and 40% mana regen. So it's really important for this build also that it invests heavily into mana. So after you get these two, I recommend you go down here and you get Unwavering Stance, so you cannot be stunned. We do have a lot of life, but not that much. I think it's a little bit below average, our life, which is fine because we have Mind Over Matter and our mana pool to help mitigate damage. But because we don't have such enormous life pool, like I don't think we reach 6k with this build, maybe 5k. But because we don't have an enormous life pool, we can still be stunned, so I still take Unwavering Stance. And all our gear is armor anyway, so we do not rely on evasion. So that's another reason to get Unwavering Stance. After you get Unwavering Stance, I recommend you get Soul of Steel in the entire cluster here for more armor. This gives you a lot of armor and also some elemental resistances, and of course 4% additional physical damage reduction. So this 4% additional physical damage reduction is calculated after your armor. So if your armor is giving you like 30, 35, 40%, this extra 4% is going to be calculated after and added in a kind of flat way. So that's very good. It works the same way as the Chaos Golem for physical mitigation, and we also use the Chaos Golem in this build, so we end up mitigating a decent amount of physical damage. After you finish that, you should get Bloodless, so it's another life cluster that is easily achievable here. This is the point where I am at right now at level 75 in the build. And for future expansion, some things we could do is we could go here and get even more armor and more elemental resistances. Not that we need elemental resistances, but we're coming here for the armor mostly. But also because we can get this extra geo socket here. You get some projectile damage for your Incinerate and then an extra geo socket for life and damage. Of course, you can also allocate this other geo socket, and then you're going to have a total of 4 geo sockets, which I think is a good amount for this kind of build. At this point, you want to get more life, more armor, more of everything that the build needs. You can go after more geos if you want. One thing you can do is get Art of the Gladiator, and on the way you get a little bit more life here. Get Art of the Gladiator. Of course, again, attack speed is not necessary, and accuracy rating is not necessary, but 20 dexterity is actually good because we use GMP with this build, and we don't get much dexterity at all with this build. So it gives you 20 dexterity, and also ignore all movement penalties from armor, so that's not bad. We can move a little bit faster because we use a tower shield and we use a lot of armor equipment, so we get a lot of speed penalties, so this is good. And also a good reason to get Out of the Gladiator is because you can get more projectile damage for your Incinerate here, and this 10% projectile speed, which helps a little. I'm not going to use faster projectiles linked to the Incinerate. I'm just going to use the 20% quality on Incinerate, which gives it 40% projectile speed. And if you get these extra 10 here, then it's almost like you're using a faster projectile gem already, except you're not linking it. So that's another thing you can do. You can also complete the life wheel, of course. And we're approaching the end game here. Like we have few options, but not many. You could take one more geo socket, for example, or you could get the life here, get some geo sockets, something like that. But that's pretty much level 100 character already, so that's a little bit less feasible. But that's that's it for the build pretty much, guys. Hope you're enjoying it, and I'm gonna be posting more guides and gameplay videos soon.